height, dim the streets in moonlight bright. We dissect the cinematic art, real by real we pull apart.
Hello and welcome back to Real Talk. This is the podcast where I dig deep into the films that entertain us, inspire us, and every now and then make us scratch our heads and wonder, what were they thinking? But not today, my friends. Today, we're talking about one of the most heartwarming, iconic, and flat-out gorgeous musicals of all time, The Sound of Music. I'm your host, Josh, and let me tell you, this film is like a warm cup of cocoa on a cold day. Whether it's your first time watching or your 50th, it has that timeless quality that never gets old. For me, the magic hasn't faded one bit since the first time I watched it as a kid. It's the kind of movie that feels like home, you know? Full of sweeping music, big emotions, and moments that stick with you. So what are we diving into today? Well, we'll take a closer look at why The Sound of Music has stayed so firmly planted in the hearts of audiences for decades. Is it the songs? The story? Julie Andrews spinning on that mountaintop? Spoiler alert, it's all of the above. We'll talk about its unforgettable music, songs like Do Re Mi and My Favorite Things and Edelweiss, that are so ingrained in pop culture, they practically have their own zip code. We'll chat about the characters and performances, especially Julie Andrews, who's basically everyone's dream nanny / life coach. And of course, Christopher Plummer as the dashing but reserved Captain Von Trapp, who might just have one of the best character arcs in musical cinema. Finally, I'll wrap it up with the Real Talk segment where I'll share my honest take on the film, from its entertainment value to its storytelling. Spoiler, I think it's fantastic, but hey, we'll break it all down first. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's take a musical journey through the hills, which, as you know, are alive with the sound of music. Let's get started. Hey, need a boost without the crash? Head over to dubby.gg, that's dubby.gg, for all your energy drink needs. No sugar, no fillers, just clean focus and serious flavor. And here's the kicker. Use the code REALREAL, REALREEL, at checkout and score 10% off your order. That's REALREAL, one word, for 10% off at dubby.gg. Fuel up, stay sharp, keep it real. Looking for chills that crawl up your spine and reviews that cut deeper than a butcher's blade? Welcome to Real Talk Horror Edition, where classic slashers, indie creepers, and cult nightmares are dissected with a bloody passion. Whether you're into slow burns or splatterfests, we've got the guts, the gore, and the geek out. So dim the lights, press play, and let your darkest curiosities run wild. Real Talk Horror Edition, where horror lives and breathes. Real horror, real talk. Available anywhere you get your podcasts. All right, let's start by talking about the movie at the heart of this episode, The Sound of Music. Now, if you haven't heard of it, well, first, welcome to Earth. Seriously, though, this is one of those rare films that feels like a rite of passage for movie lovers. It's been capturing hearts for generations. So here's the rundown. The Sound of Music was released in 1965, directed by the incredibly talented Robert Wise. You might recognize Wise's name from West Side Story, another absolute banger of a musical. This guy knew how to bring music to life on screen in a way that really felt larger than life, but still kept it very personal. And then there's the cast, and what a cast this is, with Julie Andrews starring as Maria, and she's pure magic in this role. It's like she was born to sing The Hills Are Alive. I mean, who else could twirl around on a mountaintop and make it feel iconic? And opposite her, we've got Christopher Plummer as Captain Von Trapp, He brings that mix of sternness and charm, and together they're just dynamite. And it's fascinating that this story is really based on the true Von Trapp family. There really was a Maria who married a widowed naval captain and became stepmom to his 7 children. And of course, the family really did perform together and eventually fled Austria during the rise of the Nazis. But let's be real, Hollywood takes some liberties. The real Von Trapps weren't quite this rosy, and their escape wasn't nearly as dramatic as crossing the Alps on foot. Still, the heart of their story shines through, and the film captures that resilience and love of music that defined them. And we can't forget about the music itself. The legendary duo Richard Rodgers and Oscar Hammerstein were behind this score. And these guys were like the Lennon and McCartney of musical theater, just churning out hit after hit. Songs like Do Re Mi, My Favorite Things, and Edelweiss are more than just part of the movie. They're woven into the fabric of pop culture. You don't even have to know this movie to recognize the songs. And I think that is a testament to how timeless this film has become. And let's talk accolades, because this movie cleaned up at the Oscars. It won 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture. That's right, this musical stood toe-to-toe with some pretty heavy dramas that year and came out on top. The other nominees were Darling, Dr. Zhivago, Ship of Fools, and 1,000 Clowns. And that just showed that musicals can do something different with an audience. And it wasn't just the critics loving it. People going to the theaters couldn't get enough of it either. Adjusted for inflation, The Sound of Music remains among the highest grossing films of all time. People were lining up around the block for weeks to see it back in 1965. But why is this movie still on our watch list? Well, honestly, how could it not be? This is one of those films that's practically required viewing. Beyond that, it's a movie with layers. Sure, it's packed with these feel-good moments and sing-along worthy songs, but it also has the emotional core that resonates. It's about finding joy even in the face of adversity, about the power of family, and about standing up for what's right. And the visuals, man. If you've never been to Austria, which I haven't, I feel like this movie will have you Googling plane tickets to go check it out. Those sweeping shots of the Alps are just breathtaking. I also think it's worth mentioning that this movie appeals to so many people. You don't have to be a music theater junkie to enjoy it. There's something universal about it. Whether it's the humor, the romance, or the suspense, or maybe just the sheer beauty of the production. It's a movie that invites you to lose yourself in its world. And for a couple hours, you're just swept away. So yeah, The Sound of Music absolutely earns its place as one of the most iconic films of all time. Whether you're revisiting it for the 50th time, or maybe you're somehow that person who's just watching it for the first, this is one of those rare films that really stands the test of time. And today, I just wanted to celebrate everything that makes it so special. Okay, so let's really get into the heart of this. Like I said, if you haven't seen it or it's been a while, let me take a minute to refresh your memory. This is the story, centers around Maria, this incredibly spirited and slightly scatterbrained young woman who's training to become a nun. She's full of life, always singing, always smiling, but let's be honest, the convent isn't exactly the best fit for her. The mother abbess, being wise and understanding, decides to send Maria off to try something new, becoming the governess for the Von Trapp family, which includes 7 children who are, well, they're a bit of a handful. Now, these kids have been living under the very strict disciplined rule of their father, Captain Von Trapp. He runs his household like one of his naval ships. It's very no nonsense, no fun, and certainly no singing. But Maria comes in like a breath of fresh mountain air, literally and figuratively. She's all about music, joy, and connection. And little by little, she wins over the children with her warmth and charm. And things start to get interesting when she starts to win over the captain as well. But it's not all sunshine and sing-alongs. The story is set against the backdrop of World War II, with Austria being annexed by Nazi Germany. The Von Trapps face some difficult, even life-altering choices as their values and their safety come under threat. So while the film is full of, these beautiful moments and songs, there's this underlying tension and resilience that gives the story so much depth. It's a tale about love for family, for freedom, and for music, and how those things can carry you through the hardest of times. And let's talk about the moments that make The Sound of Music unforgettable. I mean, where do you really begin? It's moment after moment, really, but starting with one of those most iconic scenes in musical history. It's Maria spinning on the mountaintop, arms outstretched, belting out, and I won't sing because I don't want to kill y'all, but when she sings "The Hills Are Alive" with the sound of music, even if you haven't seen the movie, you know that scene. That is movie magic. The music swells, the mountains are gorgeous, and Julie Andrews absolutely nails it. It's one of those scenes that it feels like, I don't know, it's like a warm hug, just it holds you there and lets you be in the light of that joy. And another standout moment has to be Do Re Mi, that whole sequence. Just take a second to appreciate what that song does. Maria uses it to teach the children the basics of music. But the scene, it's so much more than that. It's playful and joyful, and it's like watching this family come back to life. They're running through Salzburg, singing and laughing, and you can practically feel the walls the captain built around his kids starting to crumble. Plus, the choreography it's this masterclass in how to blend storytelling and music seamlessly. And then there's the song Edelweiss, and if you don't tear up a little during that scene, I don't know what to tell you. Captain Von Trapp sings it towards the end of the film, and it's this quiet, powerful moment. It's his farewell to Austria, to everything the family has known and loved. But it's also a quiet act of defiance against the Nazi regime. You can feel the weight of what they're facing, and it's all conveyed so beautifully through this simple, heartfelt song. I also have to shout out to the wedding scene. Maria walking down the aisle of that stunning cathedral with the choir singing in the background. That's breathtaking, and the cinematography really sells the moment. It's grand and romantic, but also intimate, like you're right there with her. And you can't forget the suspenseful escape scene near the end. The family hiding in the abbey, trying to avoid being caught by the Nazis. It's just really intense, especially for a musical like this. It's like you're holding your breath the entire time, even if you already know how it ends. These scenes, they're the way The Sound of Music, they're why The Sound of Music isn't just a great musical, but a great film. It knows how to balance those lighthearted moments with serious ones. And Robert Wise does it all with this incredible sense of heart and authenticity. Whether it's a big, sweeping musical number or a quiet, emotional scene, every moment feels like it's there for a reason. And I think that's why it continues to resonate with audiences, even after all these years. All right, so let's talk about what I think of The Sound of Music. First off, can we all agree that this movie is just pure magic? This is one of those films, no matter how many times you watch it, still holds that same charm. You could be humming along with My Favorite Things while folding laundry or wiping away a tear during Edelweiss, and it'll hit just as hard as it did the first time. So for entertainment value, let's start with just how ridiculously entertaining this movie is. I mean, come on, Julie Andrews spinning on that hilltop is iconic. It's one of those images that's burned into your brain in the best possible way. And the songs, they're not just catchy, they're timeless. Who doesn't know Do Re Mi or The Sound of Music? Even if you haven't seen the movie, and honestly, if you haven't, what are you waiting for? But you've probably heard these tunes somewhere. And the performances are just, they're like the chef's kiss. Julie Andrews as Maria is perfection. She brings this effervescent energy to the role, but there's also a depth to her. You believe her as this free-spirited woman finding her purpose in life. And her chemistry there with Christopher Plummer is so good. And speaking of Plummer, he starts off as this strict, emotionally closed-off captain, but you slowly see his walls come down. And that scene where they dance at the party, I swear it gets me every time. And can we talk about The Sound of Music without mentioning it, how stunning it looks? Of course not. I mean, the sweeping shots of the Austrian Alps make you want to pack a bag, buy a plane ticket, and sing your heart out on a mountaintop. Yet that is what cinematic escapism is all about. That is it at its finest. And something I really love, though, is how the film balances being a feel-good movie with this real emotional weight. Sure, it's heartwarming, but it doesn't shy away from showing the darker realities of the time. More on that in a minute. And let's dig deeper into the story, because I think there's a lot to unpack there. On the surface, it seems pretty straightforward. Young woman takes a job as a governess. She bonds with a bunch of kids, falls in love with their dad, and they all sing their way to happiness. But what I love is that there's so much more going on beneath the surface. Maria's journey is the heart of the film. She starts off as this kind of misfit in the Abbey, someone who's clearly passionate and full of life, but doesn't quite fit the mold of a nun. And then she gets thrown into this situation with 7 kids who've scared off every other governess. Instead of running away screaming, though, she connects with them through the music. And it's not just about teaching them songs, it's about bringing joy and love back into their lives, which is something that's been missing since their mother passed away. And then the kids, each of them with their own personality, from sassy little Gretel to rebellious Liesel. That 16 going on 17 number is so fun. It's a little cringy when you realize how naive Liesel is, but hey, we've all been there. Then there's Captain Von Trapp. At first, he's all about discipline and order, and you think, man, this guy's a bit of a buzzkill. But as the story unfolds, you realize he's just a grieving father. Someone who's closed himself off to protect his family. But Maria helps to open him up again, and it's such a beautiful transformation that by the time he sings Edelweiss, you're like, all right, this guy's got a heart of gold. And let's not gloss over the backdrop of the story, the rise of the Nazis. The film does a great job of gradually building that tension. It's there in little moments at first, like the party where the guests talk about the political climate, and then it escalates with the arrival of the Nazi flag. The stakes are real, and the Von Trapp's escape is genuinely nerve-wracking. For a musical, it gets pretty intense, but that's what makes it so impactful. And yes, I know the movie is long, clocking in at nearly 3 hours, but honestly, it earns that runtime. Every scene feels essential, whether it's a playful number with the kids or a quieter, more emotional moment between Maria and the captain. The pacing works because the story takes its time to develop these relationships and build the world. You're never bored, and by the end, you feel like you've been on this incredible journey with the Von Trapp family. So what's my final verdict on The Sound of Music? For me, it's an easy 9 out of 10. It's a masterpiece of the musical genre, no question. It's heartfelt, uplifting, impeccably crafted. Sure, it's a bit of a time commitment, but every minute feels worth it. The music alone is enough to earn it a high score, but when you add in the performances, the cinematography, and the emotional depth of the story, it's truly something special. I will say, if you're someone who doesn't particularly enjoy musicals, or if the idea of people breaking into song makes your eyes roll, this might not be your cup of tea. But even then, I'd still encourage you to give it a shot. Because it's not just a musical here. It's a beautiful piece of storytelling, and it stood the test of time for a reason. So whether you're like me, a diehard fan who's watched it dozens of times, or someone who's curious about why this film is so beloved, The Sound of Music is absolutely worth your time. Wow, it's been a joy to talk about The Sound of Music today. Whether it's your first time hearing about it, or you're someone who's hummed Do, Re, Mi more times than you can count, I hope this episode brought back some fond memories or has inspired you to give it a watch. It's always a pleasure to dive into films that truly stand the test of time. Now, before we wrap up, let's talk about a few things you can do to keep this little podcast party going. If you've been enjoying Real Talk, if this show made you smile, sparked a memory, or even just kept you entertained while you folded the laundry, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. And if you've got a moment, leave a review. It doesn't have to be anything long or fancy. Just a quick note to let me know that what you're loving about this show. Your support is what keeps this whole thing running, and I'm so grateful for every one of you who tunes in week after week. Seriously, thanks for being here. Now, I want to connect. I want to hear from you. Do you have a favorite movie that you just have to see me cover? Maybe it's a childhood classic, a hidden gem, or even one of those movies that's so bad it's good. Whatever it is, let me know. You can find me on most of the socials, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky at Real Talk, Twitter or X at Real Talk Pod. And if you're like me and email's more your style, drop me a line, therealrealtalk@gmail.com. I read all the suggestions and can't wait to hear what's on your watch list. All right, real quick, let's talk about next week's episode because I'm pretty excited about this one. We're diving into 2007's Hot Fuzz, an absolute brilliant mix of action, comedy, and just a touch of British charm. And it's the second in the unofficial Cornetto trilogy. If you're a fan of sharp dialogue, over-the-top action scenes, and moments that'll just have you laughing out loud, you won't want to miss it. Seriously, it's a pretty wild ride, and I can't wait to break it down for you. And on that note, it is time to say goodbye for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Talk. Remember, movies aren't just entertainment. They're little windows into different times, places, and emotions. So until next time, keep watching, keep loving, and keep those reels rolling. We'll talk to you next time.
Underneath the sun, gleam, talking reels and all their schemes. tight. Dim the streets in moonlight bright. We dissect the cinematic art. Reel by reel we pull apart. The real talk where voices play with velvet words and starlit sway. Reviewing tales both light and dark. Classic films that leave a mark. Dive deep into celluloid night. Critique the legends in our sight. Every frame a layer appeal. Truth and intrigue are revealed. Fan the flames of black and white. The mystery dances in the night. Casablanca to the crime. In every score we find a rhyme. The real talk where voices play with velvet words and moonlight bright. With velvet world we pull apart. Reel by reel we pull apart. The real talk where voices play with velvet words and starlit sway. With velvet worlds and starlit sway. Reel by reel we pull apart. The real talk where voices play with velvet words and starlit sway. Reviewing tales both light and dark. Classic films that leave a mark.